it again. And I will also post a link in Power Schools, just in case you have not registered in Power Schools yet. Make sure you do that so you can get credit for it. Also, you're going to want to register for tomorrow's in Power School as well. So doing it once won't cover both days. So almost done, but do help us create some buzz on social media about how awesome our boot camp is and the amazing NBCs that we have here in the state. So I'm gonna repost some hashtags in the chat box so that you can use them when you post on social media. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to your presenter, Brandy Caldwell, and I will mute my mic now.
All right, folks, I appreciate you joining this afternoon. Looks like we had a big group registered for this session. So Jennifer's going to help me as people enter the waiting room to admit those folks. And I have posted a couple of times the slides, but I'm going to post those again in the chat. You can click on that link or you can copy the link and put it into your URL into your search bar there and get access to the slides. The slides have lots of links in them. They have lots of resources and videos that I think will be helpful to you. Even though this is a bigger group, I'm going to try to be interactive as possible. And typically when we've done this in person, I have been at a table because everyone's famous for, hey, I have one quick question. And that's because we all have these little questions and little nuances on whatever topic it is that you need assistance with. So my name is Brandy Caldwell, and I'm with the Jacksonville State University Regional In-Service Center. I'm an Alabama Technology in Motion specialist, and I've been doing that since 2015. And it was just a few years ago when Melissa approached me about helping with this boot camp, and I had helped in candidate support capacity before because I am certified as AYA-ELA as a former high school English teacher. And I renewed in 2012. But even during my renewal process, it was mostly an analog paper process. And so when Melissa approached me about technology in regards to national boards, I had to get a guinea pig to let me log into their stuff so I could see what all the fuss was about. And I realized quickly that digitizing this process sounds super convenient, but it's also super intimidating, because I will say, as a granny, as Melissa called us, of the group who did the paper process, there was something comforting about handling each piece of paper, clipping it together, putting it into a box and mailing it off. When you are in the digital world, you are putting that file in there and sending it off into the digital abyss, just hoping that you did everything right. So hopefully today you will leave this session feeling a little more confident in that process, and hopefully we'll address some of your questions. And so we're going to get started, and we'll just be kind of admitting people as they come in, and I will go ahead and post. I post this a few times just because as people come in, they don't have access to the previous chat. And so if somebody comes in a little later and they say, where are the slides? If somebody wants to grab that link and copy and paste it for us, that would be helpful as well. So I see lots of familiar faces. I see some names that I recognize. And so I'm excited that you've joined me today. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. So we are going to be looking a lot today at uploading evidence, and seems like not a big deal to upload something. I mean, we are in a very techie generation, so we upload things all of the time. But when it comes to national boards, we know there are lots of rules and guidelines, and we want to make sure that we do things correctly. So sometimes when you ask me a question, you may hear me say, you need to definitely read your guidelines and read your portfolio requirements, because sometimes it's going to be very specific to what you're doing. And so I don't want to steer you wrong. So a lot of these questions are going to be just technical issues that hopefully will work for everybody. You've got my contact information here on this slide. You are welcome to email me with any questions during your process. I'm happy to help you with everybody being more familiar with Zoom. I don't mind opening up a quick Zoom room and you sharing a screen with me so that I can help you when you get stuck in a situation. So know that you have that ability to reach out to me and I can help you in that way. My Twitter handle is on here. I actually have two. I have another one that's a JSU_TIM. And then you can see there, I've been nationally board certified since 2002. I actually just paid for and registered for the maintenance of certification. So some of you may get a phone call from me this year going, hey, can I borrow your class? Because I'm going to need to do that maintenance of certification piece. All right, so I did already hit record because I forgot to do that in the last session. So that was my little reminder. And then just some important parts of Zoom. There are going to be some moments where I encourage you to unmute and ask a question or share. There's also going to be a point where I will ask you to turn your camera on or turn your camera off. So I want to make sure you know how to do that, and feel free to give me any reactions or drop a question in the chat. Because I am a former high school English teacher, I talk really fast. So I have to consciously slow down. And so if you do get to a point and go, I don't know how she just did that, or I would like more information, feel free to drop that in the chat. Jennifer can interrupt me at any time and say, hey, Brandy, go back and re-answer this question. So happy to do that. All right, so this is where I know you get asked this a lot. What do you have? What questions do you have? And I realize some of you that are just starting the process don't even know what you don't know. I mean, that's just the truth. So I am asking you to click here on this little speech bubble and add some questions. What is it you are wondering right now when it comes to the technology needed to complete the process? So if you click on this speech bubble, it should take you to a Google Jamboard. Now, if you've never used this, it's very similar to the bulletin board we're using for the boot camp. And there is a little sticky note tool over here on the side, and you can click that and add your thoughts. So we've got a big group, so we should be able to have plenty of people contributing to this. We had a good group of notes in the last group, even though we had, I think, 11. So with this group, go ahead and put a sticky note out there and tell me what your thoughts are. The question is, what do you wonder about when it comes to the technology needed to complete the process? Have you already thought, hey, here's a question that I have. Here's a concern that I have. Here's something I want to know. And so I would love for us to just kick off our discussion with your ideas and your thoughts. So take a minute there. And like I said, click on that speech bubble and click on the sticky note tool right over here and add your wonders or your questions about using technology to complete this process. A lot of good questions already populating there. As you put your sticky note on there, you may need to move it because they tend to kind of stack on top of each other. If you are more of a sit and get kind of person, or you are having issues getting to this, drop your question in the chat. Jennifer's already done that, so good job. And so we will try to address both of those areas. I did have somebody in the last group that was on a device and they couldn't get to the Google Jamboard, but this is a product that I know a lot of teachers are using. It's a great idea to use in the classroom to get a discussion started. There are plenty of tools out there similar to this. I think Melissa used Linowit for the bulletin board. This is Google Jamboard, and so I tend to use this one because I have a lot of Google products that I use. And so some of the questions you ask, if I don't know the answer, I may have to say, I'll get back to you. And if there are gonna be some of them that I think we'll probably answer during the session. So this gives me an idea, hey, am I going in the right direction with these this presentation? And there's always something new I learn every year when it comes to this boot camp. It teaches me a lot. All right, so I am gonna start with some questions that are in the chat while people are finishing their sticky notes. So Jennifer asked, how do you merge files to submit? Great question. We are actually going to cover some possible ways that you can merge your PDFs because I find that that feels like a very complicated process. There's a couple of tools that I will offer to suggest to you based on what kind of computer you're using. But yeah, we can split and merge our PDFs fairly easily. So hopefully we can get those tips today. What are some tips for recording videos? So we are actually going to talk a little bit about video. I have another session tomorrow, which is specifically about video, but we'll look at some strategies and some things that should help you when recording video. One tip I would give you is record early and record often. That is a tip that somebody gave me early in the process, and I think that that is a good one. Another question from the chat. I wonder when typing, what is the best style of writing, APA block style writing when responding to components? So I would say Melissa will probably echo this. It does not really matter as much your style of writing as it matters that you're using that spiraling technique. Are you using reflective and narrative and analytic type writing because they want you to reflect on your process, they want you to talk about what you're doing, but they really want you to analyze why you did what you did. So I don't know if that's I may not be the best person to ask that question to because I don't do as much reading anymore of National Board candidate stuff, but I know that that was one helpful tip. And I know that they are doing some sessions specifically about the writing because it is a very specific type of writing. I'm an English teacher and my sister-in-law is a math teacher, and I actually did candidate support for her during the process. And she said, I'm not a good writer. And I said, you'll be fine. Let me show you the tips that I give people on what kind of writing is needed. And she did great and she passed the first time. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, we got a lot of good sticky notes here. So I'm just gonna start over here with this one. Can I use Google Docs or is it best to use Word? So my hot tip is I love Google Docs. It's very collaborative. It's on every device and super easy. My hot tip is when you're ready to publish, ready to upload, I encourage everybody, if you have access to Word, pull your Google Doc into Word because Word allows you to do more granular editing, and you're gonna find that your spacing will change slightly when you put it into a document, Word document. So you may find that something goes to another page. So I would just pull it into Word. You're gonna have a little more freedom in your editing. That doesn't mean you can't do the whole thing in Google Docs and save it as a PDF. It's just that you may, if you're trying to get some space, like I was always the person right at the page limit and I needed more space. So Word allows me to go in there and do some little cheats like take, only single space after a period and do some other nuances that allowed me to have more space. So that's my tip. Both of them work. I usually say put it into Word, like to do specific edits. All right, let's see. I'm gonna look at this one on top of the logo. Will we have some how-to instructions on what we can refer to? So this slideshow that we have right here that I put in the that I put in the chat, and somebody can maybe repaste that if you're new to the Zoom. If you have a Google account, do File and make a copy. So make your own copy of this slideshow with all of the resources, because National Boards actually gives you a lot of how-to documents. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to link to those documents. So if my instruction is not step-by-step or how-to enough for you, I think you're going to find that their guides are very friendly. So hopefully that will help you. All right, looking down here, I'm going to move this one. So this is the reason why I like the sticky note features. You can move them around. Curious about video with my Microsoft Surface. Is this an advisable tool to use? So I think you're asking, can I record from like the camera in my Surface? Yes, it's probably a really high quality camera. You definitely can. I think most people get concerned maybe about the audio. So I would just test location of where you're going to put your device to make sure you get quality audio. But yeah, you can definitely use that. I'm guessing your Surface probably allows you to kind of pull that keyboard back or pull it off and use that kind of like a tablet, and it would also be a good recording device. What's the best way to record videos for component 3? I think a lot of people ask what's the best tool or the best way to record your videos. I've seen high quality videos that people have used their phones and recorded. I've seen people who had an entire camera crew on a tripod, and these people were in there, the broadcasting club, and they did it. It doesn't really matter as long as you're capturing the right kinds of things in your video and you can hear what's being said. So I don't know that there's a best way or a best device. That's why I say trial and error, start recording early and often. How much technology should you talk about in the written commentary for the MOC process? Well, I am just starting the MOC process, so I cannot tell you 100% how much technology you should talk about. Of course, in my job, I can talk about it a lot, but I do encourage you to look for some go-to tools that are great for engaging students, and then utilize those in whatever you're teaching. So maybe I'm not the best person to answer that question, as I'm still learning about that process as well. Will all components have to be in PDF or Microsoft Office? PDF. All of your documents, your evidence will have to be in PDF. So we're going to look at how to bring things into PDF and save them as PDF files. All right, what happens if the video recorded is of poor quality? So I will show you some tips on helping with the audio. If you're just totally married to the video, if you think they can crank it all the way up and they can see what's going on and you can write about it, then you can use it. Of course, we want a good quality video so that we don't have to beg them to hunt for things in the video. So I just say practice, practice, practice so that you get a better quality video. So if it's poor quality, I've seen people that certified with a video that was not great quality, but you do have to make up for what they are not hearing or seeing in your writing. Is there a length requirement for videos? So there definitely is. It's going to depend on what your certification is. They will tell you it's usually a 15 to 20 minute, but I do know that there are certain certifications where you're allowed 2 clips, but I can't say which of those it is. So once you read your guidelines, it will tell you exactly how long your video can be. Most of the time, it is a continuous clip of a certain amount of time. What recording device do you recommend? Again, it's whatever one that's available to you that allows you to hear and see what you need to see in there. I have done mine with an iPad. When I did my videos back in the day, it was a little handy cam. I know people that have used actual video cameras and people that have used their phones. Either one will work. What is an easy, cheap device for recording? I don't know that there's any easy or cheap. So I would just say you can check out Amazon and look for some possibilities. Most of the time, if you have a phone, particularly if you have a newer iPhone or Android phones, a lot of the Android phones have much better cameras and microphones than the iDevices, but those make really great videos. The one thing I would tell you is that if you start running out of room on your device, you need to use something like a Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox to pull your videos in so that they're not taking up space on your device. So make sure that you have some sort of cloud storage that you're able to send that video to so you can delete it and it's available and you can access it on your computer. How to use tech to organize evidence and writing. I think we're going to look at that today. Hopefully we will help you with that. Let's see, do you have to use Microsoft Word? My last presenter said Google Docs didn't work well. So again, I think either one will work. I think it's going to depend on making sure you're fulfilling what the requirements say as far as spacing, font, margins, make sure you're fulfilling those requirements. And then when you download it as a PDF, as long as you fulfill those requirements, they're not going to know if it came from Word or if it came from Docs. All right, will the equipment that I have work for what I have to do? Yeah, for sure. iPhone and a Windows PC, yes, those two can talk to each other and they can communicate. And I saw on the bulletin board, and I addressed this a little bit with the group last time. Some people are using a camera, not really a camera, but a device called a swivel. There's also a lower budget one called a Pivo. And these are like little robots, essentially, that you can take a phone or an iPad and put it into this device. And there is something that you as a teacher would wear, and that device will follow you, which is great, except keep in mind, it's not really all about you in your video. It's about what your students are doing. So as long as you're circulating within your students and your student groups, and it's able to pick up sound and everything, that works great. But also you can literally have a kid in your class holding a phone, and that also will work. Let's see, what is the best, most cost efficient way to record? Should the camera span the room? So I say there are points when the camera can span the room to show that you're using small groups or it's a whole group discussion. But if you have someone who can zoom in on a group, particularly if you're doing something with small groups, that's going to make a big impact. It's going to be easier to hear, to read lips, to see the interactions. But it can just be a static camera on a tripod that never moves. Again, you just want to make sure you can hear the audio. Let's see, the best tech to analyze and present data. I tend to be a Google Forms girl. I love them. I love the fact that they generate their own charts and graphs from that. So if you understand spreadsheets, that is a great way to disaggregate your data and put it into a chart. So I would say any spreadsheet program that you have or Google Forms is super handy for that. What's the easiest way to economically record my class? Especially concerned about them hearing my students. I did have someone in the last group ask about a microphone. So I have purchased an external microphone from Amazon that you can plug into the headphone jack of a phone. Those work pretty well. A lot of people who are podcasters and YouTubers now use these microphones. They're super cheap. I can't really vouch for one being higher quality or better than the other. Some districts are purchasing some microphones and things, but if you don't have that microphone at a particular group and they say amazing things, if you can crank the audio up and you can hear what they're saying, the microphone doesn't really matter. Let's see. And I think we're, looking at what's the best way to record. So a lot of questions about what's the best way to record. Just looking in the chat, we don't have any other questions there. So I think we're going to get started with the slides and hopefully we'll address a lot of the questions that you guys asked. So there is an e-portfolio submission site that really should be your go-to for all things uploading. I have the QR code here, but it's also hyperlinked. So if you click on that, it's going to take you to the e-portfolio submission site. I myself, because I am going through MOC, went through and downloaded a lot of these things into a folder the other night. But each of these documents are super helpful. This first one is going to cover a lot of what we just talked about, which are some frequently asked questions regarding format and uploading. So it does talk about acceptable file formats. All of your evidence has to be PDF, and all of your videos have to be MP4. Now, if you feel like you just walked into a room where someone's speaking another language because you don't understand file formats, you just have to know how to save things as a PDF, and you have to know how to either convert or save your video in this format. So when we talk about recording devices, some of your devices are going to record in a particular format, but you eventually have to get it to MP4. And so I do have a slide with links to different tools you can use for that. Talking about scanners, if you are using graphics or photos as part of your evidence, you can definitely put those into a Word document and then save the whole thing as a PDF. So you're going to want to look at some of those directions based on what kind of computer you're using or what kind of word processing program you might be using. How should I name my files? Like, this is something I really didn't think about initially. You cannot use your name in any of your file names. So when you are saving things, and I know that a lot of people come up with sort of a naming convention for the different parts, you have to stay organized. So you're going to probably make a folder on your computer or in Google Drive. You're going to start putting things into that folder. Just know that when you're naming things, don't use your name in them. When we're going to look at a short video on uploading, and one of my recommendations is when you get to the screen where you can start uploading items, there's going to be a list and a button for you to upload. I would either print the screen or take a screenshot, because that is essentially going to show you what pieces need to be uploaded together. So I can start naming my files based on how they have to be uploaded. So that's just one thought I would say. And then there it says, do not use special characters. So just look at these specifics. Preparing your video file for submission. There's some resources that they have provided here. I'm going to give you some suggestions as well, because you will typically have to export your video from wherever it lives, like your phone or your tablet or a camera. You're gonna sometimes need to convert that video to an MP4 format, and you may need to compress that video because it's too large. So sometimes our videos are going to go through several processes. Where do you upload your materials? You're going to go to the National Board account. And if you need a confirmation, you are going to get that on the dashboard, and you can just print that screen, and it's got confirmation that you submitted. So there's more specific information about how should I number the pages of my entry, what identifying information should be included on my submissions, and think about what can't be included. So I'll show you a couple of tools that you can use to like black out or redact names from pieces of evidence, because that's something that you may not have thought about, that you're going to get student work and you're going to need to take last names off of there. So cover sheets, there are particular cover sheets and forms, and all of those will be as a part of your portfolio information. You will find that there. So they also answer here, is it okay to handwrite on the forms? And it says the forms are Word documents, and says you can't alter any of the forms. So that's important information. And can you use the same contextual information sheet for all of your entries? And the answer is yes. So if you're using the same class or school, then remember you can use that same context information sheet for each of your entries. This one is interesting. May I place a collage of photos on the photo storyboard form? So if you have a photo storyboard form as part of your portfolios, make sure that you understand that collages are not okay. So there may be other pieces of evidence where you're allowed to put multiple pieces of evidence on a page, but not on this particular form. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but there is a lot of good information here, talking about your video, talking about renewal candidates. And so this is a super helpful form, and that is the frequently asked questions form there on this site. Next is the guide to electronic submission. So this is the second item on that site, which only 3 pages, but it is very helpful. It's going to have screenshots of the process of uploading everything. And I do want us to take a minute and watch a short video, and I'm going to actually stop my video so that we will have enough bandwidth to watch this short video. And I've got to get off of that control. There we go. Here it is. And hopefully, can you hear the video is the question, because
This is a demonstration video on how to upload and submit files associated with ePortfolio components in the new National Board Candidate Management System. Today, I'm going to demonstrate a component that's associated with an initial certification. If you are working on renewing, maintaining an existing certification, this process is the same. I have logged into my account, and the ePortfolio submission window is open, and you'll notice those components that you have purchased will have a different look, and that there will be a button associated with the component to complete your ePortfolio submission. You will want to click on that, and a page will populate showing you all of the files required for that particular component. We've also included some quick.
Now, this is where I said I would take a screenshot or print the screen, because I think it's very important that you note the way the parts are going to be uploaded. So that is just my tip. If I'm organizing all of my stuff, I might have folders based on the way these parts are going to be uploaded.
Quick instructions step by step, which I'll be going through as I demonstrate. I do want to make a couple comments about file format, sizes, and naming conventions. There are 2 types of files allowed for upload: PDF associated with document files, and MP4 for those video file requirements. The maximum size for these files is 500 megabytes. That's a pretty large size, but if you do have any files larger than that, you'll be expected to bring them down under 500 megabytes. We've also included a hyperlink, which will give you some tips and tricks on how to decrease your file size, and also how to convert files to PDF or MP4. As far as naming conventions, you are welcome to name files to help you identify and associate for the particular parts. We do ask that you not include your name in that file name. So I'm going to go ahead and just upload some files and give you a look and feel for what that looks like. This is a PDF file, and you'll notice that there is an upload status bar. You can continue to upload files even while others are uploading. And I'm also going to show you if I have put in the wrong file type, what that looks like. Let's say I am uploading an image file for a video file, which should be MP4. It will tell you can only upload MP4. I'll also show you the error message that you will get if you have a file that is larger than 500 meg. It will tell you that the file exceeds the maximum size. And I am going to upload a video file. And you'll see that it is proceeding, and I can continue to upload as I mentioned earlier. And I'll pause here for one moment. Let's say that I have mistakenly uploaded the wrong file for a particular part. You are able to delete it by clicking on the red X. If you've decided, oh no, I do want that file, you can reinstate it by clicking the folder button, or you can choose the other file that you want to replace it with. The other thing is, if you want to review what file you have uploaded, you'll notice when you hover, you'll get an underline, and you can click on that, and it will download, and you can open it and re-review it. And you can, again, delete it and reload it if that was not the right file. The other thing that I'll mention is that you can navigate away from this page. You don't have to complete all of the files at one time. You can navigate away and it will retain those files. Additionally, if you log out and come back, if you go back to the button, click on that, you'll notice that it retains everything that you had in your last session. So I'm going to continue loading some files here, and then we're going to go to submission.
Now, keep in mind, your upload time will be quite a bit longer than what you see in this video.
When you have reviewed all your files, and I would impress upon you to go back and double check and re-review your files, because once you submit, it is final. You will not be able to view those files, nor will you be able to change those files. You'll notice here there's a disclosure statement. Please read that. And then once you're ready to submit, you will be asked to confirm and acknowledge that you won't be able to make changes once these have been submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this portfolio, and it will take you back to your home page once you have submitted. And you'll notice that you'll have an update here congratulating you on a successful submission and letting you know that it'll be scored, and you will be notified by email on how to check your scores. If you need any type of verification, submission with any stakeholder, you can right click on that page and you are able to print it from there if you wanted to capture that. So that concludes our video on ePortfolio 5.
All right, so I normally would not show a video here, but I think the fact is I can't really log in and demonstrate what she just did. And I know for a lot of people, seeing that process kind of in action is going to make you feel a little more at ease, because you can see exactly what's expected. And I believe that is a fairly new interface, because a year ago when I taught this, it looked totally different. There were labels that you had to apply to the digital files. So it looks like that's not the case. I think it is a much simpler, more streamlined process. And I like the fact that she talked about that you can upload and you can re-upload. So here's be my first suggestion is Never fear, review, change, and review some more. So I would recommend that you do some dummy uploads, some practice uploads. Once you have access to that website, you can put any PDF that you want in there as a placeholder so that you can see about how long it takes to upload a large PDF. You can also upload a dummy video. Grab a family video that you have that's about 500 megabytes and upload it, because you can easily go and click this red X and get rid of that file. But I think it's good for you to see how long it's going to take to upload, how quickly that file gets uploaded, and also seeing that you can close that file out. I do like the fact that she reiterated that this is hyperlinked. So once you click on that, it will download and let you review, because there's nothing worse than I put the wrong piece in for part A. I do know that if you happen to hit submit and you realize that you had something named totally wrong and you submitted the wrong thing, there is a way to resubmit something. I think it's a cost of $175. So nobody wants to just dish out $175 for a mistake. So I would say review and review before you hit that submission button. I would also recommend that you don't wait till the last minute. Give yourself a cushion, because things happen. Power outages, internet's down. You don't want to be pressed for time on this. And so it did talk about once you check this box and say submit, you will get a congratulations message. Now, one thing that you don't have to know a lot about technology, and you know that you're going to have certain places where the internet seems faster and some where it seems slower, you can run a speed test on your network. So if you're going to be doing this from home, you can say, use this speed test website. I'm actually running on a cable internet right now through Spectrum. And so once this process starts, it will first measure your download speed. Download speed is not really significant when it comes to uploading files, which is what we're going to do a lot of. So your download speed may be pretty good. What you want to look at is this next number when it starts this second round of tests, the upload speed. And so I have typically an upload speed of anywhere from 8 to 10. And so that's just in the middle of the day like this, what I'm going to see as far as my upload speed. So there it is, 9.56. When I did this last night, it was a little bit higher. I have a friend that lives just down the road, and she was trying to upload some video for a dance studio website. And she called me, she said, I can't figure out why it's taking so long. I had her run the speed test. Her upload time was 0.10. 5 minutes from my house. She's on DSL. I'm on charter or cable internet. Some of you may realize the best place to upload your stuff is at school, because you have faster internet. If you have a device that is wired, it's going to be faster probably than Wi-Fi. So these are important things to think about when people ask me, how long does it take to upload? Well, it's going to depend on your network speed. All right, so I like to take a little time to do a quick game, interactive game with everybody. And this is an idea from one of my colleagues. She used this for community building in your blended learning classes. And this is turn your camera on if, or turn your camera off if. So that's what we're going to do. And I know some of you cannot turn your camera on. I understand that. You may be in a situation where you can't, but just play along if you can. The first question is, where are you in this process? If you're a candidate, turn your camera on. If you are a NBCT just learning, turn your camera off. Okay, so I'm going to turn my camera off. All right, so we got a lot of people in the candidate phase right now. All right, next, if you're a candidate, are you new or in the process? Turn your camera on. If you're MOC, turn your camera off. That's for folks renewing. All right, I see a lot of candidates. with us today, new and in the process. All right, how do you feel about uploading PDFs? That would include merging and splitting and changing things to PDFs. Do you feel confident? Turn your camera on. A little bit clueless, turn your camera off. Oh, so we got some pros in here, and then we've got some people that are like, oh, I don't know. You're like, is there a halfway? Can I be like half on and half off? All right, the next one is creating your video. That's recording it and doing any trimming you need to do. Confident, camera on, a little clueless, camera off. Oh, I see more cameras going on that one. That makes sense. We had a lot of questions about that. All right, editing or compressing your video. Confident, turn your camera on. Clueless a little bit, turn your camera off. Some of y'all are like, I'm never going to turn my camera on right now because there's a lot of confusion. All right, and then creating evidence. Putting your evidence together and uploading that evidence. What about creating your evidence? How do you feel? Camera on. If you feel confident, a little bit clueless, camera off. All right. Thank you for playing along with that. I actually got that idea from a colleague. She used it, and I thought it was a great idea, and actually gave you this template if you're interested in using it, because I feel like some of us are still going to be in a blended or virtual learning environment. And so you are welcome to use that. I think it's a great opportunity to engage people in your Zoom classes. All right, so the first thing I want us to look at is evidence. And so you are going to have to use pictures or student work samples or logs or various things that are going to be evidence for you. Some of your portfolio entries say that you can have multiple pictures and you can actually caption those pictures. If that is the case, then I just wanted to encourage you, if you're using Word, be sure that you utilize your layout tools in Word. I always recommend that if you put a graphic on a page, that you choose wrap text. When you choose the wrap text feature, it allows you to freeform move that picture all over the page, and it's going to make it easier for you to utilize your space if you need to put more than one thing on that page. You can also do something similar in Google Docs by wrapping the text around the picture. I don't know how many of you are users of Google Photos. I am a huge fan of Google Photos. The one thing I like about it is I can set up Google Photos to back up my pictures on my phone, and it automatically saves me storage space. You can see that I am wearing leggings and sandals. I'm professional on the top and fun on the bottom. For my Zooms, that's my the last pictures I took. And then there's some other pictures and videos. But I did want to show you, and we'll just pull up. My daughter likes to take selfies. If you have all your pictures being saved to Google Photos, you can access them on any device. You can then download those photos and put them into any piece of evidence that you need. You also have some editing features here that you might want to use, like cropping that picture or making that picture lighter. So if you did need to do some quick edits, Google Photos already has those editing features there in Google Photos. Another feature that I love is the ability to search your photos. So I go in here and I'm going to search my photos, and I'm going to see all people. So Google Photos actually does facial recognition searching. So if you have some pictures of your class and you have someone who is not allowed to have their face published or haven't given you permission to use their likeness, then you could actually search for that face. And I'll just grab one of my colleagues here, Robert Maben. And if I click on his face, every picture I have that includes Robert will show up in my search. And I think that's super handy because, and look at that, even this little bitty photo of us right here, and then a picture where he's in the background, it's gonna find those pictures. And so I love that people search, that facial recognition search. If you are looking for a particular kid and you need to make an adjustment to that picture, you can do that in Google Photos. I think that's a really handy tool. The tool that I probably use every single day is called Canva. And actually there is Canva for Education. And they currently are doing a way for you to apply. And I'm going to put this in the chat. You can go to Canva for Education and apply for a Canva for Education account. Now, Canva is free, but they have an educator's account that gives you some other bells and whistles. And so Canva, when you log in, and I have a premium account, so you may see a few things there that you wouldn't normally see. But what I love about Canva is I can create a design. There's presentations, Instagram posts, resumes, posters, whatever I need to make. And then they also have a custom size. So this Canva, I use it for making banners and things for my website. I use it for making graphics to communicate with parents and families. If you are using social media and you're not using graphics with every post, I promise you it's not getting the kind of traffic it needs. But let's just say that I'm going to make a poster here, and I can go in here and they have backgrounds that I can choose from that are free. I can upload any picture and I can pull that picture into that. And I've got different elements like this. If I had a picture where I could not show a kid's face, I can quickly cover that. Also, if I needed to redact something in a section of a picture, I can use the rectangle and I can add that to it. So it's a quick and easy way to make a graphic. One of their newest features is the import a PDF. So I can actually pull a PDF in. And once I have that PDF imported, I can add things to that PDF just like I added it to a picture. And so that one, I think it's maybe still loading. Up here it is. And so I can give this an uploaded picture in it. I can add, like I said, an element like a rectangle. And I can say that I want that rectangle to be transparent, or I can make that rectangle dark to cover the words. So I use Canva a lot. I think it's a very versatile tool for you to use. And I encourage you to get that Canva for Education account. National Boards gives you some tips for scanning and submitting your hard copy evidence. And they talk about preparing graphics files and putting them into a document and saving it as a PDF. I know I talked about Word, but you can also do the same thing in Google Docs. Once you have selected the image that you put into Docs, you can look down here and choose the wrap text feature for any graphics that you put into your document. All right, I see Sonia put a question in the chat. If we had a picture we wanted to use, but a student was shown we didn't have permission, could we use a sticker to cover their face and still use the picture? So that's what I would do. I think that is acceptable as far as student faces or names, using something like that with a sticker, either a digital sticker or a rectangle or something to cover that student's face should be the way to go. All right, so next up, looking at scanning and importing evidence. So some of you may still have the good old flatbed scanner. I remember those things. They were huge. They took up like half of your desk. Most people don't even have those anymore. A lot of you will have a multi-function copier at your school. I know a lot of people that print out everything, take it to the big multifunction copier, scan it all in one big pack. You can do that. You can also use some fantastic apps for scanning stuff. So my go-to app is called Scannable. It is a product by Evernote, but there's not one that is, I would say, better than another. It's really just what works for you. And so Scannable, what I like about it is that instead of taking a picture of something, which is what I do a lot of times with my phone, I can open Scannable, hold it over the document, and it scans it to a PDF, and I can either email it or save it in my Evernote account. So I like that versatility. I like the fact that I can send it anywhere immediately. And it doesn't seem to care that my hands are shaky. It usually adjusts and makes a nice clear PDF. I did have some recommendations the last boot camp about Cam Scanner, and that is another option. It looks like this one also has like a web version, so that's interesting. I have not played around with that, but once you download Cam Scanner, you would have a way to log into that. And then I have had some people say they use Adobe Scan. I think all of these are free, or if they're not, they're very low cost. And then I did want to mention screenshots. So I know that my computer, and most every computer now has a tool that you can use for screenshots. I believe Windows is the snip, and it's a snipping tool. It used to be the snipping tool. I think it's got a different name now, snip and sketch maybe. I know for Mac, I can do Command Shift and the number 4, and that will pull up this little crosshair, and it will let me grab just a section of my screen. Now, this kind of thing is important if you are using some digital evidence and you only need a portion of it and you want to put that into a document. So I love using screenshots. Sketch is a Mac product. TechSmith Capture is a Windows product and Mac. And I like the fact that you can annotate on your screenshots. I use this a lot when I'm making handouts for teachers or for students. I have a screenshot and I'll have some arrows and I will mark up that screenshot. Last year, especially when we could not actually see face-to-face students or parents, a question was asked about electronically signing documents. And so I have found several tips on how to do that. This is going to be handy if you have students whose parents cannot get to something to be able to, like if they needed to sign it, they can't print it out and sign it, or the student has lost it, then you can do that. So I'm sorry, I'm backing up a little bit and looking at the chat. The question was, we need permission to use a picture that shows a colleague. I don't know that answer. Jennifer, do you know that answer for sure?
Yes, there is a separate adult consent form that any teachers or any adults that you will need to have them fill out. But yeah, that for sure.
Jenny is asking, can you use a Google form consent form for the certification cycle? I'm going to say I'm pretty sure that whatever Forms National Board supplies to you is the form you have to use. I haven't heard anything different. Well, let's see. I see Jennifer's already addressed this. As long as you use the same language, double check. Yeah, double check the portfolio instructions. That was kind of one reason why I included this information about electronically signing documents, is because this would make it easier for people to sign those documents for you. One that I found, Adobe Fill and Sign, it does have a trial period before it asks you to pay. So that might be one you could look at. There's another one that this is an article talking about marking up in the iOS mail feature. So if you send something to someone and they are using the mail that comes with iPhone, they can actually open it up and use the markup feature. And it's called markup and reply with an email. And I did not know that. So that's a nice feature that you could show parents. And then I have an article that's got the best electronic signature apps. What I like about this article is that it gives you the name of the app, and then it gives you how much it costs and what it works with. So DocuSign is one I've had suggested before. It works with pretty much everything. And the cost is $15 a month. With up to 5 envelopes sent per month. And then there's an unlimited plan. Now, this HelloSign is free for 3 documents a month. So you may not need more than 3 documents per month. But part of the reason why there is a cost associated with the electronic signing is because a lot of times it's legal. You know, you want a signature from someone. Preview if you're using Mac. And so they give you several different possibilities. If you're going to be doing a lot of these, it might be worth paying for a subscription to this to get all those signatures back. I thought this one was interesting, 49 cents per document. So it's not a terrible investment if I needed to get my class's documents back and I needed to get them back in a quick, efficient manner. If you have another way that you have signed documents electronically, drop that in the chat. This is a topic I get asked very frequently. If I send somebody a document, how can they sign it without printing it out? So if you have a tool that you really like, I would love to add it to this slide. So you can drop that in the chat, and I might add that one to our slide on how to sign things electronically. All right, so this is one of the most asked questions. I have things as a PDF. How do I combine them? How do I split them, merge them? How do I do all of that? If you have a Mac, there is a program called Preview that comes with a Mac, and you can do it. And there's an article here showing you how to do it there. I believe both of these tools are recommended by national boards, but my go-to is Cami. Cami is free, but there is a paid version. But we're going to take a minute. I'm going to just demonstrate for you the process in the tool called Cami. So along with Canva, Cami is a tool I use very often. And it is very friendly with Google or OneDrive. And so you can see there that you can open up Cami and you can annotate any PDF. So I can either open from Google Drive or open from my computer. I'm actually going to choose open from my computer. And we are first going to just look at annotating on a PDF. Okay, so I'm going to grab this PDF right here. And I want to annotate on this PDF. So a couple of things you might need to do. You have a PDF and you need to redact some information on there. You can go to shapes and you can choose to make this shape like the lines as large as 12. And I'm going to do, I can do black. And I can just make this skinny rectangle. Look at that. It just covers that pretty completely. Or I can do white and it's almost like whiteout. So I can make my own little triangle right there. I mean, rectangle right there. Notice it is going to prompt me to save this, and it will save it in a folder called Cami Uploads in my Google Drive. So it's always saving every time I make a change. I have a free trial going on right now to have some of the fancier features, like adding a signature. So I can draw the signature, I can add the signature anywhere, I can make it smaller or larger. And then also I have the ability to add any kind of text box here and fill in information. So this is a handy tool for annotating on any PDF, but it is also a fantastic tool for merging or splitting PDFs. And you may not have even noticed when you first went here, there's this little split and merge right up there at the top, just hiding. So if I click on split and merge, it's going to prompt me to add my files. So I'm going to add some PDFs that we're going to split and merge. So I am going to grab this PDF, and I'm going to add some other ones. So I'm going to drag and drop another PDF. And then let's do one more. So I thought I had one more PDF in here. Let's grab this one, really big PDF. All right, so what it does is it makes 3 rows of all of these PDFs. So this one is really large. I only need, say, like 4 of these pages. I need this page, and I need 2 of these pages, and I want them to all go into one PDF. And so this is where I would use Cami. I am going to get rid of these 2 pages, and notice there's a little trash can. I'm going to add this page, just drag it right up there. And if this page happened to be backwards or sideways, you ever had that? You scan something in and it scans in like this. Notice I can rotate it, and I need this page and this page. All right, and so I'm done with this one. I'm just gonna close it out, and now I'm ready to export. I'm gonna give this a name. Call it components, 2, and export. It says, what do you want to do? I'm going to download the files. I could also put it in Google Drive or OneDrive. And when I hit complete, it's going to download my file, and voila, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, all from different documents into one single PDF. Love, love, love this feature. So I can split. I also have this merge mode, which basically, if I just wanted to take all of these and put them all together, I could click export, and I would have this massive thing. So I don't have to drag one by one and split them that way. I could add all 3 of these documents and just hit export, and it would export it in that order. So I'm a huge fan of Cami. I think I saw somebody else in the chat said that they loved Cami. When I talked to some districts and they said, what is one tool you think we could use that would help our teachers? I've encouraged them to buy a district license to Cami, because I do think it is worthwhile. So hopefully that may have answered your question when it comes to PDFs. So how do I save something as a PDF? There are document tips here for Mac and for PC. And so here is an example. It says how you create a PDF using Microsoft Word 2007, because we know some of us have older computers. And then how you can do it if you have Microsoft 2010 or later. And so there's the export feature in the newer version of Word, or the save as type feature where you would choose that drop down box. I know in a Mac you have the option of using save as a PDF. And then there's the PDF binder. This is what NBCT recommends as a way to merge multiple PDFs. So it doesn't matter which tool you use, whatever you're comfortable with. Because I'm a Google Drive person, I like Cami because it allows me to pull things right there into Drive or pull things from Drive. If you need to reorder your pages, sometimes that happens. You have some things in there and you need to reorder them. Word lets you use their navigation pane and the headers feature, but Google Docs won't let you do that. So I would say make it a PDF and then use Cami to move those pages around. All right, we are going to take a 5-minute stand up, stretch, bathroom convenience break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about videotaping your class. So I'm going to give us a 5-minute timer, and we will be right back.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sometimes she's here, you can take a break. Air balloon that could go to space. Like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news talking this and that. Give me all you got, don't hold it back. I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't nothing bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't nothing bring me down. I said, bring me down, can't nothing bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't nothing bring me down. I said, because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy I'm alone if you know what happiness
All right, that's a good place for us to stop and kind of all come back. You know what? I don't want to listen to myself for 2 hours. So I always try to work in a break. I think it's a lot for us to have to sit still. I know it's a lot for me to sit still for a long period of time. So I always try to work in a little break for us. There's my face. I'm actually back. And so hopefully you guys had an opportunity to get something to drink, take a bathroom break, get some coffee. I don't know if you heard me complaining in my earlier session. Amazon was supposed to deliver my K-Cups today, and it is running late, and I've never been so disappointed in Amazon. My favorite coffee is Barney's Santa White Christmas because I want it to be Christmas all year round. And I don't have my coffee, and like there's nothing in my house except decaf and like these protein shakes. And so I'm running on that right now, which is not what I would like to be drinking. So I just went out and was like, where are my K-Cups? And they are not here yet. So sad, sad day. I may have to bust out to the Publix and get me some coffee. All right, so we are going to look at another video, and I think it's very well done, and I hope that this video gets you thinking. So I want you to watch this video, and when we come back, I am going to ask you to take a minute and unmute your mic if you're willing to give us a little feedback about this video. When you're watching it, I want you to think, is there something in this video that stood out to me? Is there a tip that I like? Is there something that I heard that I really can relate to? So we are going to watch this video. Hopefully you can hear it okay. And then when we're done with it, I would love to get your thoughts on, is there anything that you really related to or that spoke to you in this video, or maybe a tip that you want to take from it? And I totally relate to that girl who's like fixing her hair and fanning. That's what I always feel.
Board wants you to videotape, select a piece of videotape that best shows or best supports what you've written in your written commentary.
Well, videotaping at first was very painful for me, as I think it is for a lot of people.
It's probably why candidates tend to put so much energy and concern into the videotape that they often forget why they're videotaping. It's not an easy thing to do. Everybody is hypercritical, and teachers probably more so than any other population of people.
I make some really ugly faces.
Teachers know that when they hear their voice, it's like scratches on the chalkboard. A lot of times I hear candidates say, well, I'm so nervous as soon as that video camera, when I click it on, I'm afraid that all of the students will just go wild. Everyone will be waving at the camera. They're just going to be making silly faces. Get over it. Get over yourself and get back to why you're videotaping in the first place. I think some of the best tips I've heard about getting your class and getting yourself comfortable with it is really the preparation.
You really need to read your portfolio instructions. Read them, then reread them, so that you really have an understanding of what is happening in that entry.
The value of videotaping multiple times was really practicing, getting myself ready, feeling comfortable, getting them ready, ironing out all the technology issues, making sure that I had good audio, making sure that I had good angles, practicing what it was that the portfolio instructions directed me to actually do.
One of the biggest mistakes is, videotaping and then looking at the questions later.
I think making sure that you communicate with the office and saying, I'm going to be videotaping today. So that way you don't have to worry about those distractions. Making sure that you have maybe a sign posted on your door saying, videotaping in progress. You look at your class schedule and your school schedule to make sure there's not going to be any fire drills or lockdowns, and then letting the students know what this is to be able to help you and to help them, and really telling them about the process so that they get more comfortable with it also. You have to be as authentic as you can in your classroom. You almost have to get to the point where you forget that the camera is there.
Put yourself in the position of success where you'll be able to choose from a variety of videotapes rather than forcing yourself to have to fit your videotape into this little piece of parameter. You want to have options.
Yeah, you got to watch it a few times, and you got to watch it once with no sound at all, just so that you can get used to your twerks and your mannerisms and your faces and your all of those things that you just see and you have to look away. But you also need to watch it with sound, maybe even not watching it, but just listening. What are some of those things that you're saying or repeating or doing time and time and time again? Get over those things and get back to the rubric. They're really looking for a slice of your practice. The videotape, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever they require of you, it isn't your whole practice. It is impossible to take 15 minutes and really show who you are as a teacher.
You really want to key in on those segments that are most closely tied to your standards and to your portfolio instructions, and also those segments that demonstrate your students' abilities.
It gives you an opportunity to show what your classroom is like, what the environment that you've established for your students is. It gives you an opportunity to show them how your students react and interact based on your facilitation as a teacher.
They're wanting to see that discourse between student and teacher. They want to see the teacher's role versus the student's role. They want to see how students are empowered in your classroom.
But when you take that 15 minutes out and you support it with a written commentary that says who you are, what you do, why you do it, and why it's important for students, then that videotape piece is an opportunity for you to make something that might be invisible and make it visible for assessors to see. When you watch your video, look for evidence of the rubric and watch it with a friend who can tell you to knock it off. Is that what they're looking for? It bothers you more than it bothers anyone else.
What's great to do and really essential is to analyze your rubric. You really need to know your level 4 rubric for this video entry. And so take each bullet point of this rubric, read it, think about it, and analyze it. Break it down into each one of these points. And then think about, what does that mean? What does it look like? What would it look like in your classroom if you had to show evidence of this particular point? What would it look like? And so you'd write that down.
I know that that's something that I did. I would give it to colleagues, I would give it to friends, and I would use that rubric so that way people could say, even that are not in the education field, this is something that I saw, or I didn't see this, and this is something that's stated in the rubric. So that might be really beneficial too.
I just look at the kids and that was the first moment of reflection where I realized that this is something that's going to help me, because I was able to say to myself, if those are the faces that I'm making that I'm not aware of, then what is the impact on my students? So what the videotaping did for me was make me say to myself, I need to change some things. And actually that part of it made me more aware of my abilities, and it actually made me want to do the process even more, because I said to myself, if I've seen this little bit, what is there still left for me to see about myself?
But what it really allows you to do is step back and get yourself into the perspective of your students. That is what they hear and see day in and day out. So give yourself an opportunity, instead of watching your video for criticizing yourself, use it as an opportunity to reflect on, you know what, when I do that, it's extremely distracting to my students. Maybe I need to be more cognizant or aware of those things so that I might be able to think about the way my presence in the classroom a little differently.
All right, so I really think that that is a good video for us to just take a minute and kind of let me hear what you think. What was something you could relate to? What is something that you heard that you thought is a great tip or good insight? If you are not able to unmute your mic, you can put something in the chat, but I would love for somebody to unmute their mic and just give me some feedback on that video and what you saw and what you heard.
Well, I liked where she said to make sure the office knows not to interrupt you during that period that you're trying to video. I think that would be pretty important, because we have a problem with that they just make all calls anytime during the day. So that might be a good one. And the note on the door, that might be pretty helpful.
And sometimes there's just going to be announcements during your video, and it is what it is. But a lot of times, if you have said, I'm videoing this period or during this time, the office will be a little more aware of that. Somebody else.
I like the part where she says to really look at it and use it as a reflection piece, because I think as educators, a lot of times until we actually see ourselves on video and really sit down and listen to ourselves, sometimes we do things that is so habitual for us to do it that we don't realize we're doing it. So I think really looking at that video and taking a moment to reflect on it and to see how it really affects your students.
That's a great point. And somebody in our last group said, what's a good video versus a bad video? Even when you reflect and you realize that you did something that maybe is distracting to students, or one example that was given in the last group was, I didn't realize that I taught to the right side of the classroom more than I taught to the left side. That doesn't mean you can't use that video. Write about that. Write about how you would fix that. Maybe that's just something that's a part of you. I read right to left. I'm always going to do that. Hey, flip the seating chart occasionally, so you know that you are reaching all of the kids equally. Talk about your seating chart when it comes to your classroom. It's significant. You made that choice for a reason. I see that somebody said in the video, you shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. You need to be you, reflect on your mistakes and build from them. 100%, because if you are worried about every little mistake, you'll never find a video that you're willing to submit. Anyone else? Anything that they said, any tips or anything that you thought, hey, I'm going to do that, or that's a good idea?
I like the way she said no level 4 rubric. And to me, we as teachers, I know when I make rubrics with my math with the students, we go over what level 1, level 2, and level 3 is. But I always tell my students, look at level 4. You want an A, you want 100, you know how to do the best, do that level 4. And she's telling us the exact same thing. And so to me, that's the first thing I want to look at now. It's that level 4. Put it in my mind, memorize it, and have it in mind, like she said. Put it on that chart and write down what your evidence can be, so that when I'm doing the video, I'm thinking about what I want in my video as I'm teaching to have that level 4, that's exactly what they'll see. So I have all the answers to the questions that they may have, or what I'm writing on to go with it will be exactly what they need.
That's a great point, because if you're prepared with what you know a level 4 is going to look like in my classroom, then I'm going to set myself and my students up for success that day. And that video is going to have the components I need to kind of check as I'm writing about it. So that's a great point. Somebody else said, practice, practice, practice. I can't say this enough. Start videoing early and often. Get all those forms in. You want it to feel second nature that the video is going. Anyone else? Like Renata said, allow another teacher to watch the video and give you feedback. Yeah, and even people not in education. My husband is actually a math teacher, but he's math, not English. And his feedback on my video was helpful, because I made some assumptions about my class and my content. And he said, I don't even understand what you're doing here. And it made me think. I had to write about that more, because I had to think about, hey, I'm making assumptions here. So I just think there's a lot of good feedback that you can get from others. It always hurts my heart when I'm working with a candidate and they're so excited and they bring me their video, and within the first 60 seconds, I have to say, this is not it, because their video is so focused on them as the teacher and not on what the students are doing. And if I could give you one main hot tip, it's don't focus the camera on you the whole time. It's really not about you. It's about what your students are doing. So they need to see you in the video, but you don't need to be the star of the video. So as long as your classroom is student-centered and you're focusing on that, you're going to have more successful video experiences. Anything else, Jennifer? I know you've gone through this. We may have some people in the room that are folks that are NBCTs or going through maintenance and certification, any other tips as far as videoing?
A few times I have worked with candidates, and I tended to do this myself, and to video like a Socratic discussion, because it's, you know, it seems like a really good teaching strategy, learning strategy, but if the teacher is sitting back and observing the students during their Socratic discussion, then there's not very much for you to write about for your decision making. Like it's it's not quite the it's not quite what is being looked for, even though as a teacher, we're really proud of those moments when we can sit back and let our students shine. We actually do need to be doing something with them too. So that's my piece of advice.
And they mentioned that discourse. You know, what are you saying? What is the student saying back to you? And then how are you prompting them for the next response? So I think all of those are really good tips. I just, like I said, I think both of the videos I included in here, I thought were worthwhile when you consider that uploading those evidence and then doing that video are both major pieces to what you're going to be doing with your portfolio. All right, so video tips and tricks. So National Boards has a video compression and conversion guide, and they've got some links and tools here that you can use. But I've also given you a lot of tools here that may be helpful. So the one thing that people tell me a lot of times is that their video cannot be heard. And I just saw that question in the chat about picking up student voices. That's why practicing is so important when you're establishing groupings and your seating chart and where your device is going to go to record your students. I've seen teachers actually physically tote their phone from group to group. And then I've also seen a device on a tripod just catching everything in the room and maybe somebody moving it occasionally. One of the biggest problems is being able to hear small groups or to hear conversations. And so there is one little kind of secret tip that you can use. I know that iMovie does it. If you have some other video software, it may do that as well. But I'm just going to demonstrate this. And if you're like, okay, that's great, Brandy, but I don't have a Mac. If you know somebody who has a Mac that can do this one little adjustment for you, it will be worth it. And so I'm gonna, this is actually from the last group, sorry. So I'm gonna take that out. So I'm gonna pull a video in that doesn't have much sound. So I'm gonna pull this little video in here. It's very quiet, not a lot of sound to it. And so we're just gonna watch it and listen. And I've got my volume up as far as it'll go. Watch and listen to this video. So. All right, look, it made it. So we were doing some work with microbits and some robots and everything. So let's say that there, my goofy laugh at the end was actually a conversation we needed to hear. Within iMovie, this audio track down here, I can boost the volume all the way up to 400%. When I export this video, there is no way for anyone to know that I have boosted the volume of that audio, because that's technically not an edit. It's not cutting the video. Somebody did ask earlier, can you trim and edit video? You can trim the ends of the video. So let's say this is an hour class and I can only have a 15-minute segment. I would find my 15-minute segment and I can trim the ends up to that 15-minute segment. If I remember correctly, there are some portfolio entries that allow 2 separate segments, but for the most part, a lot of them require it to be a 15 or 20-minute continuous segment. So yes, you can trim the ends, and you can boost the volume. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like with this 400 boosted volume. All right, look, it made it. So a lot of the things you couldn't even hear in the video at all to begin with, you can hear quite well now when you boost that, and then you would export your file that way. Another thing, if you have a video where everything sounds good except for one group is really, really quiet. So this is a video where I'm going to take the volume down to begin with because it's very loud. My daughter likes playing Dancing with the Dance Line. That's her, the little bitty one. All right, we can hear that. That's nice and loud. But let's say this next group, I need it to be louder or quieter. You can actually split the clip. And when I export the movie, the clip is continuous. But what I'm doing is I'm going to adjust the audio just for this section. Okay, so we're going to look at the difference. I'm going to take the audio way down in this one. All right, got really loud. So you can boost the volume of those quieter groups just by doing that simple trick there. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave that video as is. I know we've got a couple of questions. What's the name of the program I'm using? So this is iMovie on a Mac. And if you don't have a Mac, there may be other programs like a Final Cut Pro that allows you to boost the volume. But anywhere, sorry, I'm going to take the volume down a little bit. Anywhere where they have an audio track that allows you to take the volume up or down, you can do that. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you when we talk about compressing our video. So in iMovie, when I am ready to save my video, it tells me already it is 20.5 megabytes. And the size limit for your videos is 500 megabytes. So you can see this is a really, really small video. But when I'm ready to export this, there are some settings right here that I can adjust. So if it was way too big, I could adjust the resolution and notice what happens to the size just by changing the resolution. I can also adjust the quality. If it's high quality, it may boost it up some. If it's low quality, it may take it down some. You don't want it to be so low quality that your video becomes pixelated. So you're going to want to find a kind of a happy medium here so that you are under that size limit of 500. So that's just a tip when you're using iMovie. And I know not everyone has that program, but there are other programs that will do some of those same compression tricks. And like I said, iMovie allows me to boost the volume. And I've had people that are doing national board know I have a Mac and they're like, can I just come over and put my video in iMovie and you boost the volume for me? And then I just export the movie for them and they are ready to go. But there are some video editors if you're a Windows PC. Windows 8, the old program is called Windows Essential. But if you are a Windows 10, it comes with something called Video Editor. And so you can just look within your apps, and it talks here about creating videos, but basically you're not adding music or effects. You just want to pull the video in and you want to trim the front and the back of the video. And so I can't demonstrate this because I am not on a Windows machine. There's also some other programs like Animatica, which is a download for computers. And this is also going to let you trim that video and crop a video clip if you need to do that. And then any video converter is something that is one of the suggested tools from national boards. And this will compress and convert your video. So if your video is a .mov or a .wmv, there's all kinds of different file types, and you need it to be MP4. You can use any video converter, but I did put on here, beware of free downloads. So sometimes it says free download, and it's going to come packaged with some lovely spyware or malware that is going to give your computer fits. So make sure when you're downloading that you don't just check yes to everything. Make sure it's not downloading McAfee and all kinds of extra stuff. One tool that I really like, if you have the ability to download to your computer, is called Handbrake. Handbrake is free. It's not super user friendly, but notice it lets me format it in whatever resolution I want. It also will show me kind of how large that file will be, and I can convert it to an MP4 file. And so this will compress it and convert it at the same time. And I have a link on here with like a how-to using Handbrake. If you are someone that's going to have to use a Chromebook this whole time, I love a good Chromebook, but it's maybe not the best when it comes to video. There are a couple of online video editors. They may not be free because they usually have a watermark or they have a size limit. But if you got to do what you got to do, it might be worth paying for it for a month to get your videos ready to go. Last hot tip, when you're recording, always landscape, never portrait. I know people who have certified with a video with like this, but ideally you want it to be landscape so you can get more of the classroom. It's actually better for viewing on a computer as well. I have this slide. This is straight from some of the National Board resources and then just some trial and error. To achieve the target file size, you need to have the right resolution. So you may not realize it, but if you are using your phone or your tablet, I know iOS does this and Android probably does too. If I go into settings and I go down to my camera has some settings that I can adjust right here in settings on my phone. So if I go to camera, I have settings to record the video. Right now, mine is set at 1080. And I just said the ideal resolution is much lower, like 640. So I would reduce mine to like 720. And now, just from the video, from where I start, I've already lowered that resolution, which is going to make a smaller file size. You don't want it to be 4K, like that is the highest resolution I can have. And then there is, on my phone, it says a minute of video will be approximately, and it's like 60 megabytes if you're at 720. If you're at 4K, guess what size it is? 350 megabytes. So if I will go ahead and adjust my camera settings on my device, then I can start with a much smaller file to begin with. Also, when you get into some of these programs, you're going to see some stuff that looks like crazy words you've never heard of, maybe like bit rate. And if you want it to meet the file size requirement, choose a bit rate of about 256 kilobytes per second. So you don't have to know what it is, just know that's your target number. Frame rotation, landscape if possible, and then frame rate. If you can choose a frame rate, choose 30. And so these are just some hot tips like for compressing, converting, and even settings for starting out with your recordings. All right, so I have a place here for more questions. I also wanted to just open it up if you had a very specific question or if there's anything that you wanted me to go over again. This kind of wraps up the slides and the tips and tricks. I do feel like at this point, if you are brand new starting the process, maybe today feels like drinking from a fire hose. So I'm sorry. You may not even realize what you need to know till about 4 months from now. So if you've saved this slideshow with all the links and resources, hopefully when you get to that point, you go, what did she say about recording? And you can come back to that slideshow. All right, any thoughts, questions, drop it in the chat or unmute your mic.